looking at a new recipe I'm trying to make. One called Broteinies. I like to give all my recipes fun names. Now Broteinies, they are a interesting idea. I want protein brownies without all the rubbish in there. I just want to be able to add protein powder directly into the mix. Now you can see I've already actually created a recipe. I am now perfecting that recipe. It needs to be changed around slightly. It was a slight bit dry, and you're going to be able to see exactly what I'm going to do next. One thing I want to increase is the amount of olive oil I use. I use olive oil for the extra little bit of health benefits. I do not want to fart around with having almond meal and soy milk or coconut milks. I just want to use what I have at my home, plus add in some protein powder. Protein powder messes around with things, so you need to adjust the recipe accordingly. My second attempt at Broteinies, and I am going to increase how much olive oil I am going to use. So I'm going to add my change, which is 100 mils of olive oil this time. I think the amount of protein powder was good. I think I just need to perfect the recipe slightly, and I was going to try putting some actual chocolate chips in. Now obviously this is designed to be a more of a healthy chip, so I'm not going to put a lot in. I'm just going to put a little bit in. Maybe I'm thinking 50 grams. This is not a very large recipe at this point. I will be trying to upscale a little bit more in the future, but right now I'm just doing a small basic test. So I'm going to do 50 grams of plain chocolate chips. With those two changes, that is all we're going to do, because I want to perfect the cooking time and see if that alone will be enough to change the flavour quite a bit. There is a good chance I overcooked it. As you all know, if you know brownies, brownies are one where the cooking time matters quite a lot. So I'm going to get these ingredients and be ready to go in a moment. So the first step that is essential, I like to do very basic recipes. That's probably going to be the fanciest part of it, is melting chocolate. A very basic skill everyone should learn when they're younger. Most of my recipes, as they are, very straightforward. I'm going to be melting the chocolate. After I've melted the chocolate, I'm going to add in everything else. That is plain and simple. Melt chocolate, then add everything. I do not like to have anything all that complicated. My recommendation, if you do melt chocolate over stone, try to break it up quite small. If you don't break it all consistently up small, you're going to have a few chunks that just don't want to melt. And it's honestly, a pain in the bum. Is there a way I'm chopping these up? No. I just haphazardly chop one way, then chop the next. I have tried using a hammer, but it creates mess, and it kind of just smushes it out. Unless the chocolate is brittle, you don't really get a nice crack. You get more of a smush, and then you end up with just a little bit of a smush chocolate, and then you chop it anyway because it's not breaking apart properly. There we are. Now, taking the chocolate over to a pot of water that's boiling underneath a glass bowl. For this, we need a simple stovetop. From my cabinet, I'll be grabbing the glass bowl and a nice little pot. Fun tip, don't make the pot too big. If the pot is too big, the bowl sinks in. And though it is very much possible to boil the water in the stovetop, it is much more efficient to boil it in the kettle first. Save you half trouble. And that is the chocolate we are melting. You don't want to miss out on any of that chocolatey goodness. Though this recipe is healthy, it is still wanting to be quite tasty. Now I am using just some home brand chocolate. It is nothing special. I always advocate that you can typically make extremely tasty things with basic ingredients. Most things you do not need to go beyond the home brand label. There are certain things where that is more important, but a lot of simple things like flour, chocolate, even milk, most of the time it does not matter. you'll get a lovely result as long as you put a bit of care into the recipe. Now plain chocolate, which I will be using for my chocolate chips. This one is dark chocolate. Save it for a later day. It is always cheaper to buy the big pack. One of the big things people say is that you lose money when you buy the big bulk packs, because then you don't actually use it later. Well, that means you just have to get your lazy ass and actually make another thing. Always buy bulk. It's cheaper, it's more efficient. Half the reason you want to bake at home is to actually save money instead of wasting money. So, always do what saves you lots of money. While that water is boiling, I'm going to start getting my chocolate chip prepared. Because I just want to have some of that ready. Now those blocks were about 100 grams each, or the 4x4 with 100 grams each. So I'm doing half of that, 50 grams, for just random bits of chocolate chunks. Yes, that's one little bit extra. It won't hurt the recipe. Everyone loves a bit of extra chocolate. Chop these up roughly. Now this is roughly, you don't need it small. In fact, sometimes having chocolate in brownies not so roughly chopped up is actually better. It leaves lots of large gooey spots. One thing I learned from a cooking show is that sometimes inconsistency brings a very new flavour. If everything is always fully consistent, that means your flavour is consistent throughout. Add a bit of inconsistency and you get a new interesting flavour as you enjoy the brownie. I always use a silicone edge of sorts. Now sometimes this can take a little while, but momentarily the water is going to heat. It is going to provide heat to the chocolates without applying direct heat to the chocolates. There's something enjoyable about watching chocolate melt. I'd even say it's slightly appetizing. The only thing to watch out for is that as this water boils, it is going to generate steam, which is then going to burn your hand. And unless you like to be hurt, burning hands is not very fun. And there we are, all done. Did not take much time at all to put the bowl onto. So we now have our chocolate and our ingredients. Next step is to combine them all. Bring our bowl over. Yes, it might not be fully cooled, but it will not be that hot. It'll burn my countertop. 1/3 of a cup of flour. 1/3 cup there. This is simply just going to mix through. I could have added these in a separate bowl, but I am all about minimizing waste, minimizing how many dishes you have to do. So 1/3 of a cup of flour. We have 1/3 of a cup of protein powder. Protein powder is a nice source of protein. If you're trying to bulk up or you're just trying to have a healthy diet, it is very helpful to have. Next we have a couple of eggs for this recipe. Next up is 100 mils of olive oil. So 100 mils approximately. Olive oil is a bit more healthy than some of the other oil types. It has received a bit of a backlash. And unfortunately it's gotten to the point where you never know which oil is actually the healthiest. One oil is healthy to consume and then it's actually not healthy when it's heated. When you cook with oils they become less healthy. Some are good for salad, some are not. It's all very confusing. That's where sometimes not even our health professionals know. Next up on top of that is a tablespoon of vanilla extract. This allows you to add a bit of sweetness without having to use so much sugar, which is great. One thing I forgot, a pinch of salt. Pinch of salt is nearly mandatory in all cooking. What we also need is 1/5 of a cup of cocoa powder. Now, if you're wondering how I came up with that number, I made it up on the spot. I copied this recipe from 3 different recipes and made it into my own. You'll not believe how many recipes say, oh, you need almond flour. Oh, you need soy milk or coconut cream. Whenever you Google healthy brownies or protein brownies, they always come up with something that adds that little bit of extra protein. But I don't need extra protein. I just need a little bit of protein. About that much. If you know me, I know I love to measure with love. Measuring with love is the best measurement. And though this is a healthy brownie, I am still going to use a little bit of sugar. I know what you might say. Oh my god, how can it be healthy if you're still adding sugar? Well, considering I add probably 1/4 of what a lot of recipes say to add for brownies, it is indeed quite a bit healthier. Sugar is not necessarily bad, it is only bad in excessive quantities. And lovely, lovely. Now, if you have made brownies before, you'll notice that this brownie does not look like brownie consistency. It looks very funky. That is what happens when you use protein powder. Protein powder is not your normal flour, so substituting it in does not work. I still am using some flour because flour is necessary for all baking. All baking is important. I did forget that I do want to add 1 teaspoon of baking powder. I do not want them to rise a lot, I just want them to rise a little bit. I will try this one time without the baking powder, see what it looks like. Make it more of a fudge brownie. It is for my wife, primarily. She is the one that really wants nice, healthy snacks. But she also doesn't like snacks, so trying to make ones that she likes and enjoys. I always recommend adding all your different choc chips right at the end. Right at the end, so everything else can be mixed through perfectly. The choc chips can often get in the way. They are chunky bits. They're going to bind, they're going to sit next to other chunky bits and make more chunky bits. So always, in my opinion, add it in the last step, right before you mix it into the pan. Now this recipe is a very small recipe indeed. When we are looking at it, we are looking at a 8 by 8 inch pan, or for those that like real numbers, 20 by 20 centimeters. Some people often recommend just greasing the pan, but I like to not clean up lots of dishes. A well-lined baking tray will often not need to be cleaned up. It has a very dark texture. I'm hoping that it has a nice flavour. These are not professionally made brownies going to random shops. They are brownies that are being cooked at home. Now, something I forgot is preheating my oven. We are doing a temperature of roughly 160 degrees Celsius. Keeping hands clean. Now that is going to be it for now. Next time we see this baking tray, it is going to be cooked brownie. This baking tray is going to look lovely. Turn into proper brownie that is going to be delicious. Delicious indeed. Now, I unfortunately also have to clean up. Can't leave a messy kitchen. Now I reveal my secret technique for many years of how I manage to keep tracks on time and be the best chef in the world. It is a timer. Keep timers, they are the best thing. If you screw up the time, you can screw up the cook. Which means if you set a timer, you have done half the job already. So 25 minutes is what we're going for right now. I'm going to check it in 25 minutes. Hopefully it will be ready or nearly ready. So here we are. Brownie is out of the oven. Give it a poke. Skewer comes out clean. You can do a bit of a pokey test as well. And it is good. As you can see, the cooking is now done. We're using the baking paper. I've removed all mess. No washing up necessary for this pan. When cutting up, I like to cut it up however you wish. I like smaller pieces, though I end up eating lots of the smaller pieces because the pieces are too small to fill me up, so I have a bunch. Maybe we'll just eat a larger piece. The gooey spots in the center is not many, but you could see a couple. Unfortunately, it did turn out a little dry again, but it tastes delicious. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and thanks for watching.
As you can see, the cooking is now done. By using the baking paper, I've removed all mess. No washing up necessary for this pan. When cutting up, I like to cut it up however you wish. I like smaller pieces, though I end up eating lots of the smaller pieces because the pieces are too small to fill me up, so I have a bunch. Maybe we'll just eat in a larger piece. The gooey spots in the centre is not many, but you could see a couple. Unfortunately, it did turn out a little dry again, but it tastes delicious. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and thanks for watching.